The letter contained no return address, only my name written in the type of precise handwriting that denoted age and secrecy. It arrived on a Thursday morning, nestled between utility bills and a beautiful travel brochure that I had not asked for. I almost threw it away, but something, a gut feeling, perhaps intuition, moved me to tear open the package. The letter had a single typewritten sentence. "Your mother is dying. If you want to say goodbye, come home now." No name, there is no explanation. For 1 minute, I stood riveted in my Brooklyn flat, my coffee cooling in my palm. My mother and I had not spoken for 6 years. It's been 6 years since I gave my testimony at my younger brother Ben's custody hearing, revealing to the court what I saw in the basement that evening. I had left immediately afterward. I packed my belongings, changed my phone number, and ended all connections and beginnings. But now what? I dialed the last number I knew from my Aunt Jenna, who still lived in the family's little Louisiana town. She picked up after the third ring. "Kate," she murmured, her voice soft and shocked. "I wondered if you'd call." "Is it true?" I inquired. "Is Mom really?" There was a pause. "Pancreas is in stage 4. She moved into the house last week. She has roughly a month, if it's slow." Silence stretched between us. "She's asking for you," Jenna replied, "calling your name in her sleep." I wanted to say I didn't care. I wanted to express that I hoped she recalled everything awful she had ever done to me before she died. But all that came out was, "Is Ben there?" This time, the pause was longer. "No, Ben hasn't been home in 3 years." I nodded, but she was unable to see my gesture. "I'll catch the next flight." By midnight, I was standing at LaGuardia's gate B12, the words from the letter still echoing in my head. I hadn't been back to Bonne Terre since the court case. I was 23, shivering as I gave my testimony, clutching a folder of photos that I prayed the judge would accept. I was now 29, an assistant editor at a publishing company with a walk-up apartment and a rescue cat named Margot. On paper, I was functional, safe, but returning meant reopening all I had shut up. The town hadn't changed. It remained the same calm labyrinth of shotgun dwellings, rusted truck stops, and Spanish moss-draped trees. The family home, situated on the lake's edge, was a white Victorian that had endured its share of hardships. When I arrived, the porch light was already switched on. Jenna was waiting with her arms crossed and her silver hair in a bun. "I figured you'd come," she said. "Not for her," I responded. "For Ben." She nodded once and stepped aside. "Your room is still the same." She asked me not to touch. I wasn't ready to visit my mother yet. Instead, I dropped my suitcase and wandered along the corridors, half expecting to encounter a younger version of myself cowering behind corners. The house smelled of old wood, lemon cleaner, and something else, sterile and metallic. My room upstairs stayed unaltered. Even the posters were worn and curled at the corners. My high school journal sat on the desk, its leather cover worn smooth by anxious fingers. I was about to lie down when I heard a faint knock. "She's awake," Jenna said quietly. "She's asking for you." I almost said no. She feels regret in her heart. But I followed. The hospital suite serves as the master bedroom. Machines blinked silently in the dim lighting. My mother reclined in bed, her form strangely hidden beneath the sheets. Her eyes were closed and her skin seemed translucent. She was calm when she opened them. "Kate," she whispered, rasping, "you came." I said nothing. "There's something I need to tell you," she said. "Something about Ben." My heart stopped. "Not tonight," Jenna responded from behind me. "You need to rest, Claire." But my mother's hand gripped mine with unexpected force. "He's not who you think he is," she said softly. "What you saw, it wasn't the full story." "What are you talking about?" I inquired. But her eyes had already closed again. And something deep inside me began to shift, a truth I'd never dared to question. I didn't get much sleep that night. My mother's comments rang in my head like a puzzle I didn't realize I wanted to answer. He's not who you think he is. What you saw, it wasn't the full story. Nevertheless, it was, wasn't it? I had noticed Ben in the basement that night. We heard screaming from the youngster we weren't supposed to know about, the runaway. The injured and terrified youngster was tied to a chair. His lip was bleeding, and a belt lay on the floor. And I had seen Ben's expression when I opened the door. Calm, unbothered. I gave a testimony. I handed over the images, and then I fled. The next morning, I went out to the lake, coffee in hand. The fog clung to the lake, making everything appear ghostly. The same bench sat beneath the weeping willow, Dad's old reading area before he died. I stayed there until the coffee grew cold, wondering if I'd made a mistake returning. When I arrived home, Jenna greeted me with a folded package and a question. She had a rough night, Jenna explained, asked me to give you this. I decided to open it. A single ancient brass key, cold to the touch, lay inside. It's for the basement, Jenna clarified. My breathing became irregular. The lock was changed after the court order. She had it changed again last year, Jenna replied without looking at me. Said it was time someone finally knew everything. The basement hadn't changed. A filthy stairwell remained unchanged. The beam was still creaking. The same odor, mildew, rot, and something deeper, like forgotten pain. I hesitated at the last step. Then I turned the ignition. Initially, the room appeared normal. Boxes, the furniture is old, Dad's fishing gear is also present. Then I noticed the carpeting. It had never been there before. I drew it aside. There it was. There was a tiny indent in the floorboards. It had been freshly sealed, but not effectively. My hands trembled as I pried the wood loose. The concealed compartment held 3 items: a metal lockbox, a flash drive, and a notepad with Ben's name on the cover. I hauled everything upstairs and shut myself inside my room. The notebook was actually a diary. The diary didn't belong to Ben, but to a person named Daniel. The entries first appeared in 2013, 2 years before the tragedy. They talked about being taken in, being grateful, how Mrs. Chambers was kind, and Ben was quieter than expected. But the tone shifted. April 4th. Ben gets enraged. It is not simply yelling. He loses himself in thought. He locked me in the tool shed for 3 hours last night because I didn't mark the jars properly. Claire admitted it was my fault. I provoked his ire. June 9th. They took my phone. I said I was too distracted. But I noticed my aunt's emails. She's seeking me. I guess if I get to the post office, maybe someone will believe me. July 22nd. Ben told me I belonged here now. I don't have a family anymore. Occasionally, I wonder if he's correct. The last entry was dated 2 days before the police arrived. It read, "He warned if I told anyone, he'd make it appear like I wounded myself. No one would believe a lunatic like me about the golden boy. But I heard Kate outside the door. Perhaps she saw." I dropped the notebook like it had burned me. With shaky hands, I plugged the flash drive into my laptop. There were videos. There were 4 of them. Each is time-stamped. Each comes from an outdated surveillance camera. I clicked the first option. It revealed the basement. Daniel is pacing and speaking to someone out of frame. In the second video, Ben stands in front of him, shouting. Claire, my mother, walked in and slapped the youngster across the face. The third picture shows Daniel, who is crying and appears to be injured. The fourth, Ben's alone. Ben gazes directly into the camera, smiling. My stomach turned. They'd lied to me. They'd convinced me Ben was a monster, but he was a victim, and I had left him there. I dashed to Jenna, demanding explanations. She did not dispute it. She did not even appear astonished. "I tried to stop them," she said softly. "But your mother claimed she was saving him. Daniel was unstable. It was better if no one knew." And Ben believed all she said. He was just a boy. "Where is he now?" I inquired. "I don't know," Jenna said, her eyes welling up. "After the trial, he vanished. I did not leave any notes. Just vanished." That night, I read every single page of Daniel's diary, and by the morning, I'd made a decision. I was determined to find him, and I was determined to make things right. 3 names, 2 addresses. There was a high likelihood of finding a match. It took less than a day to sift through Daniel's old school files, public records, and a few digital clues hidden in the metadata of those video files. He had previously attempted to contact them via a draft email that had never been delivered and was still accessible from the flash drive. The message reads, "Aunt Miriam, I need your help. They claim I'm unstable, but that's not true. I want to come home. I'm not sure how to get out." The letter never reached its destination, but it did tell me one thing. Daniel had a family, somewhere. I called Dylan. He answered the first ring, his voice still warm despite the years. "Kate, I need help," I said. "Not legal, not emotional, investigative." A pause. "I see you are still getting right to the point." "Dylan, I found something. I have discovered information about the boy who was found in the basement. His name was Daniel, and I believe he's still alive." Dylan sent me a list of names within a few hours. The Chambers family temporarily hosted Daniel Collins, who had previously been in the foster care system. He had never been formally adopted and was simply another youngster the church took in during one of their juvenile outreach initiatives. There is no follow-up, there's no caseworker. All that's left is a name and a disappearance. This state of affairs persisted until 4 months ago. A Daniel C. sought a business license in Baton Rouge, a modest landscaping company, cash only. There's no website, no errors. Dylan wasn't certain it was him, but my instincts told me otherwise. The house was a 1-story blue cottage with a broken porch railing and a sign saying Green Revival hammered into the dirt in front. I parked across the street, my hands quivering on the steering wheel. I wasn't sure what I was going to say. I wasn't sure if he wanted to see me, but I'd come this far. I knocked. Nothing. I banged again, and louder. The door slowly opened, and there he was. Taller now. His build was thin, toughened by hardship. He had short, dark hair. The small scar near his left brow was still visible, just like in the video. His eyes narrowed. "Kate," he spoke quietly. My breath caught in my throat. "You remember me? You were the only one who looked scared when you opened the door." We sat outside with 2 rusting lawn chairs. He did not invite me in. I did not blame him. "You left," he replied simply. "You left," I paused. "I thought you were the one who was hurting others. I thought Ben was the golden boy. I understand." He looked away. "They told everyone that." "I found your diary," I explained, "and the videos. The hidden compartment beneath the basement." He closes his eyes. "She kept it? She left it for me before she got sick." He was silent for a long time. Then, "I used to worry if you ever thought of me. Could you truly comprehend the events that transpired? But then I realized it didn't matter. Everybody left." "I'm sorry," I muttered. "I didn't know." Daniel eventually looked at me. "You do now." He did not shout at me. He refrained from accusing me. He simply let the silence fall between us like dust on aged wood. Finally, he said, "You want to make this right?" "Yes." "Then listen." He told me everything. Claire had taken him in through the church's youth sponsorship program, and at first it felt like a rescue. Hot food, clean clothing. There was a dedicated room. Then the rules came into effect. No phone. The rules prohibited any unsupervised visits. Daily corrections. "She said I was unstable," he explained. his voice strangely serene. "They said I was too angry and vulnerable to live anywhere else. No one would believe me if I left." And Ben? He believed her. I think he wanted to believe. But occasionally, he'd cry afterwards. He appeared to lack comprehension of his actions. "And the other boy?" I asked. He paused. "There was no other boy." I blinked. "What? You mentioned there were screams. Another kid tied to the chair?" I nodded. "It was me, twice." "But," my voice wavered, "when I opened the door, you looked different." Daniel didn't respond. Instead, he reached inside his shirt collar and drew out a small chain with a key at the end. They had me on medication by then. This was done to ensure my compliance, to make me forget which day it was. I can barely recall you unlocking the door, but I remember thinking, she sees me. Only once. I sat there shocked. Everything I thought I knew, every memory, was twisted by fear and what I had been taught to believe. "You're the only reason I made it out," Daniel said. "After you testified, the heat went down. They could not explain the bruises, so they let me leave, quietly. There are no charges, no apologies, just dropped me off at a shelter 2 towns over. Why didn't you say anything later?" When he glanced at me, his fury subsided. Only fatigue remained. Because they'd have buried it, just as they buried me. As I was leaving that evening, Daniel handed me a USB disk. "Everything I saved," he explained. "These scans, the notes, the audio recordings. You want me to do something with it?" "No," he replied. "I want you to decide if it's time someone else knew the truth." I listened to the recording in my motel room that night. This is my mother's voice, calm, cold. "Ben, if you do not correct him, he will never comprehend boundaries. We are now his family, and family does not tolerate disobedience." What was Ben's reaction? Broken, obedient. "Yes, Mom." The next morning, I drove back to Bonne Terre with a different goal. I had previously buried the truth, but now it has claws, and it wants to get out. I returned home shortly after noon. Jenna was in the kitchen slicing tomatoes with the precision of someone who hadn't spoken in a long time. I positioned the USB device on the table between us. She didn't inquire what it was. She merely stared at it, her hand in mid-air, and the knife frozen over the chopping board. "I found him," I replied. Silence. "He is still alive. He has proof." Jenna dropped the knife. I initiated a storm that consumed the next 2 days. I started small, sending the audio recordings and scans of Daniel's diary to the local reporter who had covered the custody case 6 years ago, Rebecca Stratton. She is a woman recognized for her ability to detect decay behind glossy surfaces. I then forwarded everything to the state's Child Protection Division. Then we went to the church that had funded the foster care program. I linked my name to it. There will be no more stillness. There will be no more protecting. The news broke on Monday morning. Chambers' family accused of abuse. Evidence surfaces years after the court battle. The article began with Daniel's name, then mine, and then Jenna's. And beneath that is a snapshot of our lakeside home. My mother's face, taken from a church newsletter. According to court documents, she once stated, "We open our home to children who have no one else." The irony was acid in my mouth. By dark, news vehicles had parked outside the driveway. A small group had gathered. Residents, protesters, and onlookers were present. Some held signs. One of them has written in bright red marker, "Where is Ben?" That was the question no one could answer. From the living room, where Jenna moved like a lioness whose prison had just opened, I watched the news. She looked at me. "Do you believe Claire knew this was going to happen? Is this why she phoned you?" "I think she was trying to rewrite her ending," I replied, "but she didn't get to write mine." That night, I received a phone call from an unknown number. A familiar voice crackled through the line. "Kate? Ben." My stomach twisted. "Where are you?" He didn't reply. "You've seen the news." "I have." We shared a long, thicker than pain, silence. "Did you know?" I asked, my voice cracking. What was she doing to him? What were you doing with him? I was a kid, he explained quietly. I don't understand. No, not then. But later? Again, there was silence. Then, I attempted to locate him once. They sent him away. But Mom warned me that if I kept asking questions, she would make it appear that I was the one who wounded him. By that point, I had come to believe her. I had to. Where are you now? I asked again, this time in a quieter tone. I can't tell you, he stated, but I wanted you to know. I'm sorry. Before I could respond, the phone connection went dead. I slowly hung up. And then I turned to see Jenna standing in the doorway, her face pallid. That was Ben, wasn't it? I just nodded. She approached the window and stood with her arms crossed, staring out at the lake. You know, she began, her voice remote, your mother was not always like this. She used to be the wild one among us girls. She was also known for her courage. But she eventually married your father, and something inside her twisted. She became obsessed with control. Jenna gave a nod. Regarding looks, they managed to fit everything in. The next day, I got a call from the state attorney's office. They sought a formal statement. They were establishing a case. Rebecca Stratton, a journalist, asked for an on-camera interview. I want you to tell the story in your words, stated the woman. If you don't tell your story, someone else will do it for you. We filmed a part on the porch. I wore no makeup, did not dress as the tragic daughter or the brave whistleblower. I simply told the truth. Regarding Daniel, I spoke candidly about the situation in the basement. The silence we experienced cost us both dearly. I believed a lie, I admitted to the camera. I also helped enforce it. But I'm not going to be silent any longer. This action is not for family. It's not about reputation. It's not even about maintaining peace. When it aired, the town split in two. Some called me brave. Others labeled me a traitor. Church leaders issued strong public statements. An unknown contributor supported the reopening of past instances involving the church's youth program. Others gradually began to speak up. There are 2 more boys present. There's one chick. Each of them narrates a story reminiscent of Daniel's. Claire Chambers, my mother, died 3 weeks later. Her body ultimately gave out before the law caught up. She did not leave a will. There has been no public statement. A handwritten message in her drawer. Kate, I wanted to keep us all safe. I assumed control was the only option. Please forgive me. Mom. I looked at the message for a long time before burning it. Jenna and I packed up the house silently. We discovered a snapshot of me, Ben, and Daniel at the bottom of Claire's lockbox. The snapshot was taken during the summer before anything began. Everyone is smiling. All of us believed, in our different ways, that the family was complete. We sold the house in early spring. A calm couple from Ohio acquired it for half the price, intending to repair and convert it into a lakeside getaway. I did not inform them about the history. Perhaps it was best that way. Let the ghosts rest and fresh stories replace the old ones. Jenna moved into a small apartment near downtown and began helping at the shelter where Daniel had previously lived. She never stated that she was attempting to make amends, but certain behaviors don't require statements. They just have to happen. I didn't go back to Brooklyn. I decided not to return to Brooklyn at this time. Instead, I stayed in Bonne Terre and lived in a leased room above the bookstore I used to frequent as a child. I spent my mornings going over previous letters and case notes, as well as consulting lawyers working pro bono for the other victims who had come forward since Daniel's tale aired. There were now 6. 6. We housed all of them through the church program. Each of them suffered in their own special ways. Daniel did not wish to take part in the court battle. He stated that he had already spent too many years locked in someone else's story. Nevertheless, he granted the formal investigation permission to use his journal and recordings. He said he believed me now. The authorities opened a detailed investigation into the Bon Terre Youth Sponsorship Program. The authorities have filed charges. The authorities dismissed the officials from their positions. Church leaders apologized, but the people showed no interest in repentance. They want change. They want the kind of change that is found in law books, not in pulpits. When I returned months later, Daniel was quieter, calmer. He began making custom furniture in a little workshop behind his house. "I like making things that don't fall apart," stated the engineer. That day, I didn't seek forgiveness. I just sanded wood beside him in silence, letting sawdust settle from the past. Ben reappeared a year after my mother died. He mailed me a note. There are no return addresses. There was no explanation. There is only one snapshot of him standing by a broken pickup vehicle in front of a canyon, someplace in the West, his face aged yet tranquil. And on the back, in lettering too familiar to miss, "I'm trying to do better. B." I didn't reply. I haven't responded yet, but I saved the photograph. 6 months after the last court ruling, I accidentally inspired Daniel to create the NGO Second Light. Its objectives include safeguarding former foster children, scrutinizing unregulated hosting schemes, and offering legal aid to those who have suffered silently. I utilized the money my mother left behind not for personal gain, but to dismantle the legacy she believed she was protecting. The first project was named after Daniel. He advised me not to. I went ahead and did it anyway. It's important to remember certain names. 3 years later, I was sitting in a small auditorium in New Orleans for a youth advocacy event. I just finished speaking. The applause was warm but quiet, the kind that affirms rather than flatters. Thereafter, a teenage girl approached me, possibly 16. Hands are nervous. Maintain a steady gaze. "You mentioned something in your talk," she said. "You said that speaking the truth doesn't always make a person free, but it does make them whole." I just nodded. "That's what I believe." "I think I'm ready to share my story," she said. I passed her a card. "Call me." That night, I wandered along the riverfront, the air thick with jasmine and street music, wondering about my grandfather, somebody I scarcely remembered, but who, according to Jenna, was the last truly decent person in our family before everything fell apart. I pondered what he would say if he could see me right now. Perhaps he'd remind me that family is defined by who wins your trust, not who shares your name. Perhaps he'd tell me that inheritance isn't always in the form of money, houses, or heirlooms. Occasionally, it manifests as a burden. And, if you're lucky, you'll have the opportunity to make it into something bigger. Daniel and I continue to see each other on occasion. We no longer talk about the past. Instead, we are planting trees. We are planting real trees. We bought a plot of property near the lake where the old home formerly stood. We refer to it as the Quiet Acre. This is not a monument, simply peace. It develops gradually, establishes profound roots, and doesn't require approval to flourish.